Hello everyone and welcome back to 2D Productions. Today, obviously as you can see, you can't see me, you can only hear me, so you're welcome for that. But I'm going to be testing a new format of video. I'm going to be doing kind of like a podcast type thing. So feel free to leave this open in the background and go do other things if you want, and just listen to my voice. So, alright, today what we're going to be doing is talking to an ex-host of the show and a friend of 2D Productions, Abigail Stokes herself.
Hey.
So, Abigail, how you doing? How's life?
It's a lie. My semester of college is finished. I'm ready to scream because of all the anxiety that has now crumbled. But I'm good. I'm better.
Relatable. All right, so Abigail's dealing with every millennial's worst nightmare, and today we're going to be talking about a little bit of Nintendo news. We're going to be talking, well, not so much news. We're going to be talking about what we think and what we want, and hopes and dreams and everything in between about Nintendo Switch 2018.
Heck yeah.
That kind of rhymed, and I'm a little proud of myself.
Poetry in motion.
Let's go over quickly what we know is coming to the Switch. Is that this is items that have either been confirmed through trailers or someone has said something, and we know it's happening. We don't know if it's happening in 2018, but we know it's happening. So obviously, we have Metroid Prime 4 and Kirby Star Allies and Yoshi Switch. We saw these in the Direct. We know they're being worked on. I'm assuming Kirby Star Allies is close to being done because we've seen quite a lot of footage of that at this point, but I don't know. And we don't know when any of those games are coming out. I'm assuming at least Kirby will be 2018. Yoshi also most likely. Metroid Prime 4, who knows? After that, we have Bayonetta Deluxe, which we know is coming out in February 2018, and that's going to be Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 1 on the same cartridge, the same way they did it for the Wii U, brought over to the Switch, as well as Bayonetta 3, which Platinum teased at the Game Awards this year. And again, that's a Switch exclusive. We know it's coming. I'm not sure if it's going to be 2018. Probably not. Probably the 2019-2020, realistically.
Yeah.
Then we have Pokemon Switch and Fire Emblem Switch. Two games that we know are both in development. Again, we don't know anything about them. We don't know when they're coming, but we know they're being worked on. And last but not least, we have Retro Studios games, which we don't know what that is either, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the episode. So is there anything you want to mention about any of the games we just went over?
Not really. I think it's pretty cut and dry for those right now.
So we'll see what all those are later in the year. I'm sure most, if not all of those, will show up at Nintendo's January Direct.
We'll have to wait for them to get the most recent scoop on all of Nintendo's goings on.
And now for some rumors and possibilities. The much-awaited Smash Brothers port. No. Everyone's been saying it's going to happen. We don't know. Animal Crossing Switch, also, there's been rumblings about that. Again, none of this stuff is confirmed. We don't know any of it for sure, but these are kind of things that have been jostled around recently.
And none of it's really surprising either. There's nothing in there that's like, whoa, what is this happening? It's mostly stuff that's either already been slightly confirmed or it's just usual.
Right, like Smash Brothers, a leaker, I forget who it was. I'll put up the Twitter name on the video so you can see it. But someone outright said that it was in development and it was going to be a port that was going to launch. That still hasn't come out, and I think everything else that person said has, so I have no reason to believe that Smash Bros. 4 isn't being worked on. And Animal Crossing, it's less something that has been going around, but everyone seems to want it, and every Direct, people are like, well, when's Animal Crossing Switch coming? Yeah. So I feel like Nintendo knows its audience well enough to know that this game has to be coming either 2018 or 2019, realistically.
Especially with the tease of that the last console Animal Crossing game to come out was the board game one.
Right.
And everyone saw that intro and we were like, oh my god, here it is! And it was like, surprise, it's a crappy board game that you have to buy amiibos for, and it was a disaster.
Right. I think we should go over what we think Retro Studios game is going to be. For those of you who don't know, Retro is the game studio that is in charge of the Donkey Kong franchise, most notably. And I believe they also did Metroid Prime 1 through 3. I don't believe that they are currently working on 4. So do you have any guesses of what Retro could be working on?
I'm going to guess Donkey Kong, because that had a super surge in popularity when they made those games for the Wii U. And even though Nintendo's heading in a more like 3D run around in a sandbox type game right now, I think that the 2D side-scroller games are still a huge draw for them, and they would be silly to just throw them out just because the 3D ones are doing so well right now.
Right. I also think it could be Donkey Kong. I'm a little less on that. I'm drifting more to the idea that they're working on either a revival of a Nintendo franchise or a new IP. As far as a revival, I think it might be F-Zero because we aren't going to get a Mario Kart, a dedicated Mario Kart 9 for a while, I think, because I just don't think there's a need for it.
Yeah.
I think F-Zero could fill that racing game gap, and it's also a very different kind of racing game. But I think that could be what they're working on. However, there's a plentiful amount of things. I don't find Donkey Kong unlikely, and I think it will happen. My only fear is, like you said, even though you said that you don't think that they won't work on a 2D side-scroller because of the success of 3D platformers recently, I actually think it might be a deferral because we've seen 3D platformers, they've been gone for a very long time, and I think that Mario Odyssey being such a hit, which of course it was going to be because it's Mario, but I don't think Mario Odyssey could have been anything but a 3D. It's completely vital, and I think that Nintendo might want to replicate that magic, and I think Donkey Kong is a good character to go into that with.
But on the other hand, they don't want people thinking that they're playing too safe either. It's like, oh well, Mario Odyssey did great. Let's just do that again with Donkey Kong. And if you look at their sales, the 2D side-scrolling Marios have traditionally always outsold the 3D ones, even though the 3D ones tend to get a lot more attention. It's the casual fan base looks at it, goes, oh, here's another type of Mario game that I like, and they buy it. It's not as much of a innovation type thing for them.
Right, that's true. I do think that the 2D Donkey Kong might be the safer bet, though, if I'm gonna be honest. Although there's the thing too, 2D Donkey Kong has 2 games under his belt, and I don't know why, unless it's still Donkey Kong Country 3, but 3D platformer, which could happen. It's not absurd. But I think it could go either of 2 ways, and they could always make one and then later on make the other one. There's no reason why they can't make 2. But I almost want a Donkey Kong 64, Donkey Kong Country Returns 64 type game, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like the Switch is the modern take and the more successful take of the Nintendo 64, you know what I mean? I think we're going to see, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So another game that we know is happening, but, seemingly just kind of disappeared is Pikmin 4. Miyamoto said, I think 2 or 3 years ago now, that he was near completion of Pikmin 4. And at that time, we all assumed it would be out on Wii U, but I think we had heard rumblings of the NX at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's out, you would have figured Pikmin 4 would have been a launch title, similarly to Pikmin 3, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't there.
When we were just talking before this started, how there was a Pikmin game for the 3DS, and that we're unsure if that is what Pikmin 4 turned out to be.
Right, it could definitely be that. And that's my biggest fear right now, is that it was, because I don't think anybody asked for that. In the same way, Nintendo heard that people wanted Chibi Robo to come back, and then they gave us Chibi Robo, the 2D platformer, and it didn't sell well, and I think Chibi Robo is dead because of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I really hope that wasn't Pikmin 4, but if it was, I don't think Pikmin 4 is going to happen for a little while.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, I think Pikmin 4 could be a solid, easier game, more of a cult hit like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was. I feel like that could kind of be what Pikmin 4 takes up in 2018. And I do hope it happens, because Pikmin 3 was by far, if not the best, one of the best games on the Wii U. And I want to see more from that franchise, because it's great. And if you haven't tried it yet, you should try it, because it's really fun. And now we're going to go into a more speculative thing. So just so everybody knows, all of this is speculation. There is no sense of fact. Our dad does not work at Nintendo. In fact, we don't even have the same dad. So, ha.
Someone out there is like, what?
Yeah. We're not siblings. I don't think anybody thinks that, but
I don't know.
I'm just confirming now we are not.
Nope.
I mean, we have different last names. I mean, you can have different This is turning into a very strange ramble, and I don't want to continue it. I feel like I've offended multiple people just now, and I apologize. I am apologize as well. Not I apologize. I am an apology. All right, so let's go into some, hey, this is some kooky stuff that we think we could do. Nintendo could do in 2018. You want to take it away?
I really want another Kid Icarus game. I loved the Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS, even though it did have a wonky control scheme, which a lot of people hated, and how you had to prop it up and use the DS, the stylus and the circle pad at the same time. But I didn't have that much problem with it, and I think it's a really good game to port over to the Switch or make a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Port to the deluxe route. But the story was good, the voice acting was great, the controls, although wonky, worked well for the type of game that it was, and the gameplay was fantastic, and I want more. Put it
Yeah,
on the Switch.
I agree with that entirely. I don't see a reason. I think ports are going to continue, and I know some people are going to be mad about that. But here's the thing. A port of an older game, especially less so on the 3DS, but specifically for the Wii U games, the Wii U had a very low user base, right? There wasn't a lot of people who played these games, and there's a lot of great games on Wii U that people don't know about. And I think that putting them on Switch is going to allow Nintendo to, one, make some easy money, for sure. Because it has to be easier to port a game than it is to make a brand new one. It's still probably a very difficult thing to do, but it's got to be easier, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with Nintendo making some money off of, like, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Pokken Deluxe. The thing that people need to realize is that both of those games, and I think those are the only ports that we've seen so far, both of those games added content, for everyone. Because in Mario Kart's case, it added battle mode, which is the only thing I saw people saying is why Mario Kart 8 wasn't a perfect game. You know what I mean? Because they didn't have a battle mode. And now it does. And the same way for Pokken Tournament, even if you're in Japan and you got those characters in the arcades, you got Empoleon, you got Krogunk, you got all those characters, they added in Decidueye. So you still got new content no matter where you are. And if you live outside of Japan, you've got even more. So, Nintendo is doing things, and they're putting things into their games when they re-release them. It's not just, hey, this is Last of Us Remastered, which is just a little bit better graphics. Which I'm not taking shots at that. I think that's fine, too.
Yeah.
But Nintendo is doing this in a way where they're elevating it, and they're making it stronger than it was before. So let's say for Wii U owners, there's a reason to go out and buy Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't see a problem, and I think it's going to continue. And I think it's going to go into 3DSs. I think Kid Icarus is a perfect game to make the jump over to the Switch.
Yeah.
Because I think graphically it would help a lot.
Oh, yeah. It would look amazing.
And I do think now the 3DS is dead. I don't see... There might be a couple games coming out, here and there. I think that Sushi whatever game still isn't out. But I do think the 3DS is coming to the end of its life cycle. With Pokemon finally jumping ship, I think that's going to bring everything with it. I don't think anyone's going to stay behind. And I don't see a reason why, you know what I mean? Kid Icarus is a perfect game.
Yeah.
There's plenty of franchises on the 3DS that could get remakes. Even DS games, really, if they wanted to. I mean, we saw the Mario Brothers RPG, Mario and Luigi series, the first one, Superstar Saga.
Mm-hmm.
That got a remake out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they could really do whatever they want.
Absolutely. And honestly, so many people want Kid Icarus to make a return.
Right.
It was so good. And, for a minute there, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing about it. It's like, oh, this new game is great. And then it just disappeared. And I don't want Nintendo to let this go.
Right. And that's a harder game. I don't think that Sakurai couldn't make a sequel. He could do it because it's Sakurai and he's amazing. Mm-hmm. But I do see that being a harder game to find a way to make a sequel of. Mm-hmm. So for someone like me who watched a Let's Play of it and didn't get a chance to play it, I would love to get that on Switch.
Oh, yeah, and it's more difficult because of how, I think, in-depth it is. It's even just from, a story standpoint, it's that is a game where there's not a lot of cutscenes at all, but the whole time it's story and voice acting and stuff's happening on the top screen that while you're playing, it's you can't even notice all the time. It took me a couple replays to, get all the jokes and everything. So just from the sheer mass of the story needs the port just... to get out to more people.
And Kid Icarus is another example. It might be too difficult to make a port of that. I can understand that, and they might have to go to the route of a sequel.
Yeah.
But just giving that a new set of controls, I think is enough of adding something in. Because a lot of people, like you said, the only problem they had with the game was the controls. Yeah. So giving it a new control style sets it apart and gives it that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And speaking of controls, another game that I think deserves a new, it's time in the light, Star Fox Zero. I feel so bad for Star Fox Zero because I haven't played it, but from everything I've understood, it's a good game wrapped in a horrible dying console with a horrible dying means of playing video games.
Yeah.
And it's sad and I hate it because Star Fox deserves to be, maybe not at the front of the Nintendo line of heroes, but Star Fox deserves to be in there with Metroid, with Samus at least. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It should be a game that people want to pick up, and I think Star Fox Zero looks good, and I know people have problems with it that I don't have with it visually, and I don't mind that it's a retelling of Star Fox 64 for the fifth time.
Yeah.
But I'm also okay with doing a sequel, like we said.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good game. And again, just fixing the controls on that would be enough. I don't need DLC, in with it. You know what I mean? Put it at $30 and sell it to me like that.
Yeah.
Same thing for Criticers. Give it to me for $30 and I'm not complaining. You know what I mean? I will pick up a game for Switch for $30. I don't care if it's good. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care at that point. I don't want to. If it's not full price, I'll buy it.
Absolutely, I agree. I also want a new Professor Layton game.
Oh yeah, I think that's happening. I don't think Professor Layton's gonna get ported over any of the. I mean, actually, the new one might
Yeah.
with the daughter. I think that
Maybe,
could. Yeah, I think that could get ported over.
I think it's a possibility. And honestly, the art style from the original Professor Layton games is so beautiful that if you put that on an HD screen and if you took it to that level, it would look even nicer. And I think if you bundled those, I can't imagine that's a hard game to port either, because it's literally just flat drawn images and text. It's not like there's difficult controls or anything. It's just a puzzle game. I feel like that is an easy game to port, and if they made a bundle of like the first trilogy of Professor Layton games, I think they would go like that.
Right, I agree with that, and I don't see any reason why Layton wouldn't continue with Nintendo, because it made the jump from DS to 3DS.
Yeah.
If it hadn't done that, I could see a worry, or if it had gone to PlayStation or something else along with that, I could see something. But I don't see any reason, unless they just decide not to continue making Layton games, why they wouldn't move it over. And I do think that Lady Layton's going to be at least a new trilogy of games, because why wouldn't they make a sequel if it sells well? And I think that's a great idea to port that over. And like I said, I do think 3DS, I can't really think of anything else that, I mean, maybe like Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon or something could get moved over. Like I said, I do think it's going to happen. I don't know which games, because it's hard with 3DS, because you look at like, none of the Pokemon games are going to get moved over. None of the Fire Emblem games are going to get moved over. That's just not going to happen. But, maybe with some games that didn't sell as well, they could be moved over.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think 3DS its library is too good not to be looked at again.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that maybe not flew under the radar because it was on 3DS, but I think maybe would get noticed more.
Oh, you know what needs to be ported?
What?
Codenames Steam.
Yeah?
Oh my god, I'm so mad that Codenames Steam didn't do well. For those of you who don't know what Codenames Steam is, it's a new IP for Nintendo from Intelligent Software, the maker of Fire Emblem, and it's a steampunk like storybook characters, like the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz characters are in it, and basically Zorro's in it, and all those other characters, and it's great, and I love it. But it did horribly on 3DS.
Yeah.
No one bought it, and it's a shame, because you could literally go to GameStop right now and pick it up for like $5, like not even joking.
Wow.
And it's such a good game, and I want more from it. In fact, Henry Fleming, which is the main character, was on one of our, if you go back into the channel, there's an episode we did on the characters we want for Smash Brothers, and he was one of my honorable mentions, I believe. If he wasn't on the list, he was an honorable mention. Because it's an amazing game, and I think it deserves a new chance. Because I don't think we're going to get a sequel, because it didn't sell well enough. I think it's going to get stuck, and I think it's going to happen to ARMS as well, because I don't think ARMS did it well enough. I think those two games are going to get stuck in a, oh yeah, you remember that, and then years later it'll get a following, but I think it's going to be underappreciated. And maybe that's a little bit of Splatoon's fault, because that was too good, but we'll see what happens with that.
That is what happened with ARMS, is that it didn't have any time to grow its own base.
That's
Splatoon came out right after and smashed it.
I mean, it wouldn't have mattered with ARMS. I don't think ARMS had a chance, just because it's good, it's fun, but I don't think the public's there for ARMS.
There's not enough substance to the game.
I don't think that's the problem. I think ARMS is fine as a game. I just don't think the public. I don't think they're urging for a fighting game in that style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a shame. This is not ARMS cast, but it could be.
You brought up Luigi's Mansion before. I would love a sequel to that.
Right. That's actually on my list.
It is.
Because I don't think that Next Level is working on it. I mean, we haven't heard anything from them since Dark Moon, and I see no reason why Luigi's Mansion 3 can't happen.
Yeah.
Especially since Luigi wasn't in Mario Odyssey.
Yeah. I don't understand that.
Right. Looking back, if you want to go watch, there's a good video on Luigi, which is a brief history on Luigi by Foot of a Ferret. I'll link it in the description. Luigi's actually missing from a lot of Mario games. A lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
But, after the year of Luigi, I thought we were past that. So I think that a good way of explaining it would have a Mario Odyssey DLC pack where Luigi shows up and he mentions that he was doing something else. And then we get the announcement of Luigi's Mansion 3.
That would be cool.
You know what I mean? Like something to give Luigi, give Mario a poltergeist suit. You know what I mean? He has to complete a Luigi's Mansion inspired level to get the poltergeist as a costume piece.
They did something similar to that in the Galaxy games, I think. There was like a Luigi's Mansion planet.
I don't remember that it was that, but they Luigi, you could play as Luigi and you could save Luigi, and after you completed all the green stars and stuff, you could play through all of Mario Galaxy with Luigi, which I thought was going to happen in Mario Odyssey. I honestly did. Also, bring alternate dimension Luigi from Mario Galaxy back, because that's hilarious.
What?
You didn't know about this? So you know how in the Mario Galaxy games, when sometimes Luigi will show up in a level and you get to play as him?
Yeah.
Right, so that still happens when you play as Luigi. And there's different dialogue, and they're basically like, I don't know why we're both here, but it's like an alternate dimension Luigi, and it's beautiful.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's great, and I want that character back. He's like a darker, like his green is a darker shade and stuff than the regular Luigi, and it's hilarious. And I want that Luigi to return, and somehow with Egad, and I don't know, it's great. I think Animal Crossing Switch has to happen too.
It has to. I'm gonna actually have a riot if it doesn't. We need, after the horrible Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival disaster, where they teased us like, check it out, new Animal Crossing, no board game. We deserve it.
The thing is, if they don't utilize Amiibo Camp, it's going to turn out horribly, you know what I mean? Because Amiibo Camp is fine, it's a good game, but I feel like Amiibo Camp was designed to connect to another game.
You mean Pocket Camp?
Pocket Camp, yes. Yeah. I said Amiibo Camp, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm jaded. But, you know, I'm pretty sure even Miyamoto said that it was intended to connect to another Animal Crossing game. And I thought that was going to be New Leaf, because they added in the campers in New Leaf with Harv. And the campers are a big part of Pocket Camp. But nothing came of it. And I don't think New Leaf is going to get a third update at this point. I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
It could, because no one saw that last one coming. But I don't know why they would do that.
Yeah.
So I think it was meant to be part of Welcome Amiibo. And then, after the Switch came out and did so well, they shifted development over to Animal Crossing Switch. Well, maybe even before it came out, you know what I mean? I think they were working on that update before the Switch came out, and then they moved it when they were like, okay, Switch is gonna be a thing that's gonna happen. I don't know, something like that. And I just looking at my notes, we skipped over something on ports, and I don't know how we managed to do this.
Oh.
We skipped over Smash Brothers.
Oh my God, yes.
So let's talk about Smash Brothers real quick, because let me tell you about what's gonna happen in 2018. Smash Brothers is gonna come back. It's gonna happen, right?
It has. There's no way they're gonna let Smash Brothers be like fly under the radar.
Right, and let's also make it the point here. I don't think Smash Bros. 5 is going to happen on Switch. I don't even think Smash Bros. 5 is going to happen ever, maybe. You know what I mean? I don't know how you go up from Smash Bros. 4. I really don't. So put some of the 3DS stages onto Smash Bros. 4. Give us the Ice Climbers that have already been worked on. Yeah. Throw Wolf on there. Maybe give us some new characters. You know, Springman and the Inkling make amazing fighters, and there's plenty of characters in the backlog of Nintendo, Waluigi, that could make it onto the game. You know, give us another year of DLC. I will pay if you put Wolf, Ice Climbers, and Inklings in the game at, let's say, $50, right? $10 off from the original, and give us a year of DLC. I'm so happy.
Me too. That's fine. That's all I want to happen. I just want the port to happen already.
Because that's another thing. There's no more legacy characters. I mean, they could add Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur. They could add Young Link, sure, but I just don't see those characters coming back.
No, especially with Toon Link now.
We've talked about this before, about them giving Young Link the Majora's masks and transformations. But, you know, Sakurai kind of did away with that whole idea when he separated Charizard from the Pokemon trainer, and when he separated Zelda and Sheik. Yeah. So I don't think he's going to go back and remake that. I'd be fine if he did, because that's an amazing moveset and a great idea, but I don't think it's going to happen. Smash Bros. 4, give it to us, because why wouldn't you? Obviously, as well, I want Pokemon to happen, and with Pokemon, there is a big debate right now within the community as to whether the next game is going to be Generation 8, which will be a completely new game, right? Completely new franchise, everything. If it's going to be Gen 4 remakes, which is Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or if it's going to be another remake or sequel to Generation 1, because at the end, I haven't finished Ultra Sun and Moon yet, but I'm pretty sure there is still stuff there, but, you know, this could be diminished or added onto based on the ending of Ultra Sun and Moon. But at the end of Sun and Moon, the spoilers, by the way, if you haven't finished that game, Lily, one of the main characters, goes to the Kanto region, which, for those of you who don't know, is the region explored in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And some people think that that could spawn a sequel to both Sun and Moon and Red and Blue because of that, and I love that idea, and I'm super down for it, especially if Nintendo and Pokemon Company wants to take a year to, like, think about what they want to do with the next generation of Pokemon games, because Pokemon's been going in... I love Pokemon, and this is not a huge critique, but I think there was a bit of a mess up with Mega Evolution and Z-Moves. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're doing because Pokemon Company seems to have regretted implementing Mega Evolution. So it's like, I don't think we're ever going to see new Megas. And then they made Z-Moves to try to, like, make another thing off Megas and try to, like, erase Megas. So I think it's worth them taking a year to just look at that while giving us a Kanto remake that doesn't have any of those things in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You bring us back to gyms, just make a basic game. You could even remake Diamond and Pearl, but I think Diamond and Pearl remakes are coming. I just don't know if that's the way you want to start off Pokemon Switch, but we'll see. I think that could happen. One of those three. Yeah. It's most likely it's going to be Generation 8, but you know. I guess we should also briefly talk about Fire Emblem Switch. There's a rumor going around that Fire Emblem Switch is going to be Edgy Vampire Emblem. Shout out to Critical Hit. Link to the description for his channel as well. I know I'm doing that a lot, but you know that's what we do here. And there was a video he did about how supposedly it's going to be gritty, edgy Fire Emblem vampires, and I am so down. I know people are going to hate this, but I'm so excited.
Not even as a Fire Emblem person, that sounds hilarious. It sounds like they were like, hey, Castlevania.
Right, it's literally Miyamoto watched Twilight, rushed into Intelligent Software and was like, guys, I have an idea. And then everyone went, Miyamoto, that's horrible. And he's like, I'm Miyamoto? And they're like, oh, right, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what happened. Because, like, could you guys just imagine, like, a Victorian, not even steampunk, straight up, like, pistols with gunpowder and stuff, Fire Emblem. That just sounds fun to me, and it's a huge departure from the more, swords and stuff. They've been making Souls do that. But it's like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, you know what I mean? I'm talking about that kind of difference there.
Yeah.
And especially if they adapt, like, a Tim Burton kind of style. I don't know. I'm excited. I want it to happen.
I'm not really a Fire Emblem person, so I don't have a lot to say about it. But I do think, just from a stylistic standpoint, just knowing what I know about the visual aesthetic of those games, I think a of the style with, like, this Victorian type of look would be very interesting. Like, because that even reflects into, like, the gameplay almost. Because, you know, the sword, like, they would use a rapier instead of like the broadsword. You know, it's like how does that translate?
Right, yeah. Like, there's definitely
the dynamic.
It does, and the addition of, like, pistols and stuff like that would change the game entirely, and it's that type of thing where I think Intelligent Software is trying to kind of change Fire Emblem a little bit, because Awakening was very much a let's go back to the roots of Fire Emblem, right? Mm-hmm. And Fates was like, let's try to step away from that without pissing everybody off, and then they accidentally pissed everybody off. Because I feel like the Japanese design element for that was like, let's try to step out a little bit out of traditional Fire Emblem. And I think they either have to fully commit to stepping out of it, or go back into it and just go full classic like Awakening was. You know, you're going to have to make one or the other. Now that we talked about games we want, and I think we've amassed a good idea. This isn't really a top 10 type of thing or any of that kind of deal, but we're just kind of like discussing, right? Yeah. So I think another good way to talk about this is that I think hardware for the Switch is going to be increased this coming year.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's completely likely, and I've had this idea since they announced the Switch, of a Nintendo Switch DS dock, right? And what I envision that to be is basically another, and it would be expensive. That's the thing too. It'd probably be about $100 to $200, I would assume. But it's basically another touchscreen where you can put the Switch in on top and add in your Joy-Cons on the side of to make a clamshell-like design for the Nintendo Switch, right? And that would give us accessibility to a second screen. Why would we need those? Well, for games like Pokemon and even Fire Emblem to a degree, and Mario Maker, if they ever want to bring that over, you need a second screen in a lot of cases. And I just think that the second screen allows you to do more. in making an accessory, you're never forced to use it. And I know that making an accessory and locking stuff behind an accessory is going to make a lot of people mad. And they probably won't do it because of that kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Realistically. Because why would you lock Pokemon behind an accessory? But I think it could be something that maybe is completely, like, of choice. You don't have to use it, but it would be cool. I don't know. I just think that the dual screens work well, and I kind of want them back.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think the only barrier to that in addition to having to buy an accessory is that it limits the portability of the Switch unless there's some way to attach it to the screen that you bring with you.
But no, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, it's a little much at that point to carry around, which wouldn't be that big a deal for me since I don't really carry my Switch anywhere anyway. I kind of leave it in its dock. But that's the only real downside I can think of to that.
Right, that's true. But, backpack kids, get on it. Use backpack. There's a Switch backpack. I'm not leaving a link to that, but I think it exists. I'll put up a photo right now if it exists. Right, and also for hardware, I do think, and this is going to be really speculative, if you thought that last idea was crazy, I think that they might make, and again, this is all depending on how docks work, because let me tell you what I am not. A software and a hardware engineer. I don't understand how these things work. To me, I plug my Switch into this magic box that puts it on my TV. Right? That's how I see it. So, assuming that the magic box is the thing doing the magic and not the Switch, there should theoretically be no reason why they could not make a stronger version of the Switch dock. And they do sell docks separately, right? So, for $80 to $100, I personally would pick up a stronger dock that can output games at a stronger, instead of 1080p 4K or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that serves almost no purpose as far as the games go for Nintendo, right? Because we don't need, Mario Odyssey looks amazing, Zelda looks amazing. We don't need more power on the Switch for Nintendo games right now, right? But what that it could allow Nintendo to do, and again, there could be other hurdles, and I'm sure there are software limitations that would have to be met, and that might not be able to happen in things like Overwatch coming to the Switch. Right, because we know Blizzard wants to. Yeah. We know they've thought about it, but they literally can't. It just hasn't gotten there. And I'm not sure if they could solve that issue with a dock. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if they could, I think that could be something that they look into. Because depending on how Nintendo moves forward into the future, looking at third parties, they could lead the console market. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right now, I think arguably it's being led by PlayStation, right? I think it's safe to say that.
Yeah.
And that's fine, and I think PlayStation's doing fine. They're killing the game right now. They're not. I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone else who likes any other consoles. That's fine. But I think if Nintendo plays their cards right, everybody, and go to any comment section on any game recently, and every comment is like, when's this coming to Switch? When's this coming to Switch?
Yeah.
Why isn't this on Switch? You know what I mean? So I think that if Nintendo plays their cards right, and they find a way to get these stronger games that aren't necessarily possible right now on Switch, I don't know how they would do it, but if they can, they could lead the game industry right now. I think it'd be a renaissance. We're going back to NES, Nintendo at that point.
I mean, I feel like Nintendo always has the opportunity to just overtake this other stuff, but they don't. Like, I feel like there's the opportunity for them. Like, I'm not saying that I feel like every day is like, oh, why isn't Nintendo at the top of the industry? I just feel like they have a lot of opportunities to do that, and then they don't take them.
I disagree. My thing with these kinds of things, Nintendo, like, going back in history, the N64 was great, and then the PlayStation came around, and it was a disc, so they couldn't, there was nothing they could do. The disc drive was a horrible idea, let's be honest. Yeah. Which, I know I'm basically asking them to make a second disc drive. I'm aware of the hypocrisy, but there's that. And then, like, for example, they made a horrible, stupid choice for this discs on the GameCube. Right? There was no reason they couldn't use DVDs. Yeah. Everyone else was doing it, right? There's no reason they had to go with those GameCube discs. Yeah. And that hurt the GameCube immensely, and it couldn't sell. Yeah. And then we got the Wii, and everything was fine. And then we got the Wii U, and then so many mistakes were made, right? Yeah. To the point where I don't even know whose fault it is anymore. I don't know who's to blame. Yeah. And now we got the Switch. So Nintendo's always on this, a good console, a good console, maybe not so good console. We go back and forth. In the first case, it was NES and Super Nintendo. Great consoles. Nintendo 64 and GameCube. Great consoles, but maybe it didn't sell as well. Wii, great console. Wii U, not as great as a console. You know what I mean? And now we're back on Switch and we're back on top.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look forward now. You know what I mean? We need to look at like, hey, we have an opportunity to turn the game around. Back to that Super Nintendo Entertainment System era and really be the top dogs.
Yes.
Because if Sony, which let's be honest, is going to get bought out by Disney because they own Spider-Man, when that happens, let's say Disney buys PlayStation in that buyout, right? Because I know this is completely off topic, but I think it's going to happen eventually.
Possibly.
So if that day ever comes, PlayStation got that Disney money to spend. You know what I mean? And then that's it. Game over for everyone else at that point. I mean, not literally, but, they'll be the most powerful by a long shot. So I don't know, Nintendo, I think you have a chance here to really, obviously because, Reggie Fils-Aimé and Miyamoto are watching, but I think they have a chance to really just turn this entire thing around. And I think it's even arguable that they're already doing it. But in getting major third-party support, it's going to be completely integral to the success or failure of the Switch. We had a good first year, but it's important not to stay comfortable.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Zelda and Mario did great. Every game on it has been a 10. But what happens when we don't get that anymore? That's the thing. You always got to think about it. Switch is doing fine. Nintendo's doing fine right now. But one wrong move, and everything could go back the way the Wii U was. And I know that's a pessimistic viewpoint, and I understand that, and I don't think it's going to happen. But Nintendo's got to keep that in the back of their heads right now. They cannot get comfortable. That being said, guys, thank you for joining us. Unless there's any other thoughts you want to add here, Abigail?
Yeah, my last thought is that I really want Space Hulk to be ported. I just found it on the list of Wii U, on the Wii U games that released ever.
Is this like Space Hulk, like the Hulk?
No, it's got like a red hat. I don't know. Turn-based tactics video game.
Victor, put up a photo of Space Hulk. Abigail, please save that onto that computer.
Yeah,
Leave that page open so I can pull it, because I'm not gonna remember Space Hulk is a thing that exists. But yeah, put up a picture of Space Hulk and give the audience what they want. Also, Nintendogs 3 for Switch, Nintendo, when is it going to happen? Thank you for joining us today, guys. It's been a pleasure, as always. Let me know if you like this new format and if you want more videos in this style, because, hey, guess what? Well, I'll make them. Let me tell you about what I'll do. Remember to like, favorite, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Ring the bell if you want, if you've enjoyed what you like, or if you enjoyed what you've been listening to. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. Leave a comment. I want human connections. It's got nothing to do. Out of school, we're on break. I really would like to read some comments. This is getting sad really quickly. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Roll that funky outro.